Jennifer, am I okay standing here for the Zoom? Okay. Are we ready to roll? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's easy. Okay, thank you, Jacob. Is it, do you know when that question and answer just later on?
They might start.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Yeah, we're ready.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the November Town Hall meeting. Wasn't that Veterans Day service yesterday special? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My dad passed away 5 years ago this month. And you saw the picture of me in my uniform. Well, my dad signed my enlistment papers. You had to have your parents sign if you enlisted when you were 17 back in the day. And so my mom and dad signed my enlistment papers, and my dad gave me a ride to the train station in Michigan City, Indiana. And I got on the train and went into Chicago to the Armed Forces Entrance and Examination Station. We had to get up about 4:30 in the morning. And, it was an amazing rite of passage with my dad. And after I got discharged from the service, every September 17th, I would call my dad and thank him for giving me a ride to the train station. It was kind of being launched into, it was a rite of passage into adulthood. So late in his life, as he, passed the 90-year threshold and as his memory declined, even toward the very end, I would still call him. And just before his passing, I went to visit him, and I said, "You know why I'm here, don't you?" And he said he couldn't remember anything. He had lost his memory. He said to me, "Yes, I know why you're here." And I said, "Why do you think I'm here?" And he said, "It's about the train." And I said to him, things are going kind of rough at Trinity Woods. I'm thinking about re-enlisting. Would you sign the papers again? And he said, "Absolutely." And I said, "Would you give me a ride to the train station?" And he said, "No, I can't do that." And I said, "Well, why not?" And he said, "I don't think we could find our way to the station." So I just want you to know, yesterday, I was really inspired by Weldon's message, and I'm ready to re-enlist, okay? So I've asked him to come and open our meeting with prayer today.
Thank you. How's everyone this morning? Good. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, today we want to thank you, first of all, for just who you are. Thank you for your grace and your mercy, and thank you that this is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in this day. We come to you asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this time of meeting today. Help us, Lord, to engage in meaningful discussion and conversation and allow us as a community to continually grow together. Fill us with your grace, the unmerited, unearned, undeserved favor that we all receive from you. As we make decisions that might affect us all, we ask you to help us to realize that as we go forth in the Spirit of Christ, certain decisions are necessary. But we pray for your guidance and direction in those decisions. And help us, Father, in the spirit of truth, that we may bring you greater glory for this day and even forever. We thank you and we ask these things in your name today. Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So this is always a fun time because we get to kind of recognize special events in our midst. We don't actually have any birthdays today, but I'd like to greet everybody here and everybody that's watching by Zoom and wish everybody that had a birthday in November a happy birthday. Martha Beecham's birthday was the 11th, and Marilyn Berry's birthday is the 14th. So you'll want to keep them in mind. Also, we have 3 wedding anniversaries this month. Mike and Sue Williams were married on the 4th of November, Jerry and Carolyn Ehlers on the 25th, and Mike and Jan Reynolds were married on November 27th, 1965. How about that? Congratulations to all of you who are celebrating anniversaries or birthdays. This month, it's our privilege to recognize Gary Stanfill, who is a dietary aide in the Marshall Gaddy House as November's Star of the Month. Is Gary here? I don't see him. But anyway, we've recognized him and we'll see to it that he has a certificate. There are 3 people that we're recognizing for milestones in their tenure here. Laura Harden is the weekend concierge. She's in member services and she's being recognized for 5 years of service. Thank you so much. Congratulations. I kind of feel like putting Laura on the spot and asking her, like, what's the strangest question that you get as concierge? We won't do that, though, okay? You have an answer? Oh, okay.
Well, the biggest problem over there is Sunday morning if the paper doesn't come.
There you go. There you go. Thanks for the Tulsa World for the timely delivery of the paper. We're also recognizing Erin Montgomery, a CNA in Hobson Lane for 5 years of service. We'll see to it that she gets her pin. And Pat Marzette is an LPN in the Marshall Gaddy House, and she's being recognized for 10 years of service. Pat, come on up here. We are so grateful for your willingness to serve here and so thrilled at the opening of the Marshall Gaddy House. Thank you so much for your service. Congratulations. There you go. Take care. God bless you. Now we have a special recognition that we'd like to do today. I'm going to ask Ling Pham, Richard Applegate, Dennis Graham, and Chef Michael Barnett to come up here. Okay. Now, We're going to come across here. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, there you go. I believe that the organization is like a body. And the heart of the organization here is the kitchen. The heart of the organization is the kitchen. We owe a great debt of gratitude to all of you for the service that you provide to us. Today, we wanted to do something special to recognize Michael. Michael Barnett has worked at Oklahoma Methodist Manor, now Trinity Woods, and he was here for 5 years, and he left, and he sharpened his skills, he honed his gifts, and we decided that we wanted to do something to recognize the sharpening of his gifts while he was gone. Okay, he actually worked with Richard at another enterprise here, and he left to cook and he came back a chef. Okay, so what do we have that? Oh, okay.
What? I'm gonna cry.
We got Michael a 10-inch cutlery knife to testify to the sharpening of his skills while he was gone. And since he came back, he's been here for 10 years. And so we have a 10-year pin to recognize your service. And
Thank you.
we'd like to just thank you for everything you do here in the heart of the kitchen. There we go. All right, we're going to get together. You want to here? Let's do that. Can we take it out of there without anybody being hurt?
Yeah.
Look at that! Wow. Right. Now, how often do you use a knife in the kitchen?
A lot since I started.
According to, where's Jim? According to Jim, I don't do nothing.
Now, one thing that you don't know is that Michael has a nickname. Does anybody know what his nickname is? It's Bird. It's Bird. How did you get the nickname Bird?
My uncle gave it to me.
Okay, there you go. There you go. And it's stuck.
Yeah.
Well, we're so thankful for everything that you do here, Michael, and it's an honor and a privilege to recognize your service today. We're all proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Lane. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to take a couple of minutes to set the stage for the discussion that Jim Ginther is going to lead us in that talks about the operating budget for 2022, the capital budget for 2022, and the fee increase that has been announced that will go into effect in 2022. But I want to take a couple of minutes to kind of set the stage for that. And I want to talk about how decisions are made at Trinity Woods. How are decisions made at Trinity Woods? The first thing that I'd like to say is that I recognize that every one of you, when you when you selected this community, when you elected to move here, you invested a sacred trust in this community. You basically made an investment. I ask people all the time, who owns Trinity Woods? The technical answer is that the board of directors owns Trinity Woods. But you are the moral owners of this organization. You don't have an equity interest, but we only have one reason to exist, and that is to serve you in the spirit of Christ. So, in my opinion, you're the moral owners of this organization. You've invested a sacred trust in us by selecting this community. I have the pleasure of serving as the chief executive officer, but I am accountable to a board of directors. The board of directors includes about 25 people. Two of them are ex officio, the bishop of the Oklahoma Conference and the president of the Oklahoma United Methodist Foundation. The rest of them are voting members of the board of directors. It's very interesting because we can't do what we do without the help of an active and engaged board. When we recruit board members, we ask them to give of their time and their talent and their treasure. And they go through an orientation. This is the orientation manual for board members. It includes information about their fiduciary responsibility. It provides the foundation documents, the articles of incorporation, the bylaws. It includes a copy of the strategic plan that we're working on revising right now. All of the information that people need to perform in that role of board members is included here. And we ask each member to give of their time. So what that means is that they all serve, they all come to the monthly meetings of the board. So we meet once a month. They give of their talent, so they bring their expertise. We have accountants, we have lawyers, we have business people. Now we have a nurse educator on the board. They give of their talent and they give of their treasure. So we ask every single board member this question. During your term of service on the board of Trinity Woods, would you make Trinity Woods one of the top 3 charities that you support after your church? And if they agree to that, that's all we ask. We don't ask for a specific giving amount. We just ask to be in the top 3 charities. I'm going to leave a copy of the board manual down here. This is my copy. I'm going to leave it here. If you have questions about this or you'd like to take a look at it, I want to invite you to look at it. The board structure includes, so the time commitment of board members also includes assignment to a board committee. And there are 5 standing committees on the board. There's a finance committee, there's a development committee, there's a legal committee, there's a human resources committee, and then there's what's called a governance committee. The governance committee basically handles, plays the function of the nominating committee. So they receive nominations to the board, and they also set the strategic direction of the organization. They basically compile the strategic plan that's presented for approval to the board. The nominations process for board members here is an open process. So basically anybody can submit a nomination that wants to. It goes to the governance committee, it's reviewed, and then voted on by the board. At the last board meeting, we elected 2 new board members. One board member is the former executive director of the Ronald McDonald House in Tulsa with vast experience in fundraising. Her name is Glenda Love Davis. And the other new board member is a nurse educator by the name of Wendy Williams. Wendy runs a nonprofit that provides training for certified nurse aides and certified nurse assistants. And we're really thrilled to have her joining the board because she'll actually be a voice for CNAs, nurse aides, and medication aides at the board level. So we think that that will be very, very helpful. These board members, they basically have two principal duties. One of them is to hire and evaluate the performance of the chief executive officer. So every single year I go through a performance evaluation. Every board member fills out the performance evaluation, and then a significant number of Trinity Woods leaders fill out a performance evaluation on me as well that provides the Human Resources Committee with 360 degrees of feedback on my performance during the prior year. So I think this is important because it's beneficial for you to know that I'm a man under authority. I believe in submission to that authority, and I believe that the role of that authority is critical to the future success of Trinity Woods. Now, once a year, the board faces a very difficult decision. And that decision is a decision that was faced at the October meeting. The decision is, what's the budget going to be, the operating budget for the year to come? What is the capital budget going to be? And what will the fee increase be? I assure you, this is my 27th year as a nonprofit CEO. And I can tell you that in working with boards over that period of time, this is always the most difficult decision that the board faces every single year. It's always difficult. I tell people all the time here, you should expect a fee increase each year of between 3 and 6%. Most years, it's been at the lower end of that. This year, we faced a difficult decision, and the decision was made that the increase would be 5.75%. Jim is going to go into the detail of that decision, but I wanted to kind of set the stage and explain to you how decisions are made here. I want you to know that it was a unanimous decision at the board meeting. There was robust discussion about it. Significant concern was expressed about the effect of the decision, but the board members felt the fiduciary duty to take this action, and that's the rationale that went into what Jim is about to explain to you. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to him and ask him to walk through his presentation.
As Steve explained, we start the budget process in April. Chris will put together spreadsheets and work with all the vice presidents and go line by line of every expense. So it takes us about 2 months to gather all the information, look at the occupancy. And once we get that, what we feel is a good operating budget, we then have a meeting with the finance committee that Steve referred to. And we spend 2 or 3 hours hashing over what are we going to present to the board? What's the rationale? What do we need to do in order for Trinity Woods to maintain its financial strength? So after we meet with the finance committee agrees to a number, fee increase, the budget, and that what the finance committee comes up with, that's what is presented to the board. And that's what Steve talked about. And that's where we got to the 5.75% increase. See if this was going to work. Doesn't work. Can you move the slide, Jess? Oh, The first we looked at is, once we'll get it, is the expense side of the budget. We have three major categories. The expense side, there it is. The 62% of the expenses are related to salaries, payroll taxes, 403, and medical insurance. Then the next group, go back. Thank you. The next area there is a 14%. It's the non-controllable expenses. You know, that's our insurance, utilities, and then some of our health center costs that we have. And at the very bottom then is that the controllable expenses, and this is the challenge for dentists, is the food, the maintenance, the landscape, and then the other areas. So that's how, if you were to take the $19.3 million of expense that we have, that's how that expense is broken into. And then from the member side, the fees that the monthly fees to members is the amount that is based on the occupancy for Trinity Woods. So if we're the health center, assisted living, independent living, all those monthly fees that we receive is where we arrive at the revenue number for the net operating margin, and that number for the budget's around $19.8 million. Our goal here at Trinity Woods is we like to maintain a 5% operating margin. Now, when I say that, and we look at the three bottom bullets, in 2021, we had a negative 2.1%. That's not 5%. 2021, this year, we faced a lot of challenges with occupancy, with increased expense, and we're projecting we're going to be at an 8.6% negative margin. So that's the challenge we're facing. Now for 2022, you know, I hate to turn on TV and listen to all the things they talk about with price increases, ships setting out in the ocean or whatever, supply chain. You know, it doesn't matter all that is. We still, as an organization, have to provide and do our fiduciary responsibility and make sure that we're keeping expenses in line and we're doing everything we can to get this place full. So for the 2022 budget, our budget, we want to get at 2.7% operating margin. It's not 5%, but that's what our budget's going to be. And I'm challenging the whole team here at Trinity Woods is what can we do to get that hopefully to 5% without, you know, decline any services here. So we're still gonna shoot for 5%, but our budget's 2.7%. Okay, next slide. Another important item here is our days cash on hand. That's basically our savings account, or that's where all our money is. So days cash on hand is the way we look at it is that's each day it costs X amount of dollars to run Trinity Woods. And so again, it's about way we figure is like $56,000 a day is what it costs each day. So as we go forward, our goal is to keep 150 days cash on hand is our goal. Will that fluctuate? Yes. We'll have good months, bad months, or whatever. But so in 2020, we ended up with 156 days cash on hand. And then back to 2021 we go, and we're saying it's going to be down to 115 days cash on hand. A lot of that is, you know, we still have a lot of money in savings, but our expenses are going up, and that's what's driving that number down. And in 2022, it's just a slight increase with our days cash on hand. So that's kind of a item that we look at, Chris and I look at each month to make sure that we're making sure that we're able to meet all the demands and expenses and paying for everything. So that's the days cash on hand is kind of like our savings account. Okay, next slide. Then I also want to talk about the capital spending. The important thing with capital expending is no money from the members' monthly fees is spent on capital. It's a totally separate budget, which is funded by the entry fees of people moving into Trinity Woods. So there's your monthly fees have nothing to do with this. And the money that Dennis needs to do his capital improvements comes from the entry fees. So it's totally separate. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands, because when we look at the budget, it's kind of like two budgets: our capital budget, which is funded by entry fees, then our operating budget, which is funded by the monthly member fees. Are there any questions of what I've said so far? The occupancy for independent living, I think we're right around 90%. Jacob, you might have to help me out with the health center and assisted living, what the occupancy is right now.
In our assisted living, again, now we almost have 3 different areas, but Holloman is pretty strong. We're pretty close to what our budget is, which is around 92%. Our memory care assisted living, for this year, I think our budget was only at like 56%, but going into next year, we want to be above that 92, and we should be able to hit that mark by the end of the year. Our health center, though, on the other hand, while we budget it around 90% or a little above, we're sitting around 70%. And a lot of that is because we've had to close maybe point. And so right there, that loses 10 possible people that could be living there.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you, Jacob. Any more questions about what I presented about the 2022 operating budget? Okay. I guess what's next on the agenda?
There have been a couple of justifiable concerns, if you ask me, about this increase. This is not something that we want. We certainly know it's not something that you want, but we're committed to standing up and answering any questions that you have, any concerns that you have about this process. I brought with me bound copies of the IRS Form 990, bound copies of the audited financial statements. And we want you to have access to these to answer questions that you have, that your financial advisors might have, that your family might have about this significant issue that we face together. So feel free to avail yourselves of those things. I didn't mention this in my earlier discussion. Susie Butterworth, who worked in enterprise accounting at the Williams Centers, has been the president of the board for the last several years. She is stepping down at the end of this year. Curtis Craig, who's the former chief legal counsel for Explorer Pipeline, will be stepping in as the president. Bob Perugino, who is a judge here in Tulsa, is going to be the vice president of the board. Sharon Early is the treasurer of the board. Sharon also worked in accounting at the Williams Companies. And of course, Stan Teeter is the secretary of the board. So those Those are the officers. Before we move on to the rest of the agenda, Jacob's going to bring an update on the vaccine mandate. I want to pause to make sure that we've addressed questions that you might have. Yes, Tom.
Where does the money come from that you use to buy the property and to operate the property that's on our west side?
That's a great question. Thank you very much. The question was for everybody, where did the money come from that has been used to acquire the adjacent property? And where does the money come from that has been used for the recent improvements? So I'm going to answer the second question first. Where did the money come from for the properties? All of the money that has been used to fund the acquisition of the adjacent properties has come from philanthropy. So basically, we had a generous estate come to Oklahoma Methodist Manor, and for a number of years, basically, we used that money to pay for those properties. We have used some short-term debt to pay the properties, and that debt is being paid back or will be paid back with charitable contributions. We believe that the acquisition of these properties is a strategic benefit to us. Those of you who are familiar with TU, you really do control the area surrounding you if you take advantage of the opportunity to acquire these properties. All of the properties that we have purchased have been purchased at fair market value, and they're, as we've discussed, it's our expectation that future growth of Trinity Woods would be in that direction. The second question is about how are things happening now with regard to the Afghans. So as we've acquired the properties, we've actually put them to use to our benefit in several different ways. It obviously helps to serve other nonprofits, but it also helps us to have the buildings occupied for security benefit and for the benefit of the income that we get from the leases that we have. So with the Afghan refugees, what's unusual about this is that it looks like right now that 8 properties will be used. Of those 8 properties, 4 of them were uninhabitable previously. So Sunday school classes from local churches have gone in. They've paid for and put the sweat equity into all of the improvements. So none of the improvements that have been done on the properties have been done at the expense of Trinity Woods. Everything that's been done has been paid for with charitable contributions or has been done through the sweat equity that the churches have invested there. In the long run, this will benefit us because we do have expenses related to those properties. We pay taxes on them and so forth. So so this is going to be Steve's answer. It's not quite yet Jim's answer. So I'm going to need a little bit of accountability here, but it looks to us like that that we should be getting about $60,000 a year in total income from the properties that we'll be leasing in 2022. What I can tell you is that's substantially greater rental income than we've ever gotten before. And so that will help offset the expenses that we have related to property taxes and so forth. But we do want to make sure that there's a firewall between our operating budget and any expenses related to the properties. The people who are leasing the properties understand that any improvements in the property are their responsibility. If we have surplus equipment, if we have a refrigerator that's going out of our inventory that still has some useful life, we're going to make that available to them. But in terms of out-of-pocket expenses from Trinity Woods, those are minimal, if any. Yes, Jane.
I have a question about, you're talking about the expenses increasing. Is there anything that we as members can do that affects the expense side of the equation? I'm thinking, for example, when you're a little kid, your mom tells you when you get up in the morning and you make your bed and you leave the bedroom, turn the lights off. Don't leave the lights on all day. Well, that's a little bitty. But is there anything that we can do as members? We already know about our increase on that side, but how do we affect the expenses?
What I'd like to do, Jane, is to have the opportunity to talk with the leadership team and to think about that and see if there's a way that we might be able to give more than just kind of a impromptu response to that. But it's a great question. Thank you very much. I have one more thing to say before I turn the microphone over to Jacob. I want to make sure, though, that I've listened carefully to make sure. And by the way, if a question comes up in your mind after this meeting, please feel free to approach Jim or me or Dennis and ask us about it. We want you to feel that there's an open door of communication. We want there to be. We don't want you to feel like if you come up with a question that you don't feel comfortable asking it. So please feel the freedom to be able to do that. Last month at this meeting, we shared with you the results of a survey that was conducted as part of our strategic planning effort. And the survey included 13 questions. We showed a kind of a word storm on the screen about responses. And the request was made at Town Hall that we make that same survey available to everybody in the independent living community. We've done that over the course of the last month, and the results of the survey are now available and they are published, and I have copies. I printed 25 copies. Anybody that would like the results of the member survey that will be included in the strategic planning process that the board and staff are working on, you're welcome to come up and pick up a copy of the results of that survey. I did see a question. I'm sorry. We'll take this question and then I'll pass the mic to Jacob. Yes,
Steve, my name is Rob Rainey, and I live at 4322 East 32nd Street, better known as the corner of 32nd and Sandusky. Obviously, there's a lot of activity on Sandusky with the houses coming down and the trucks, et cetera. But my concern is the entrance and exit off of 31st. I have talked with Dennis, and he has assured me there are some plans that sound like it might relieve some of the pressure that comes off of 31st. People can't read signs. It says dead end. They don't pay any attention to that. We've had people come down, run the sign, go all the way to the end, come screeching back up the street, doing over 50, 60 miles an hour. A lot of that's at night. Now, a lot of people walk around here, so it is a potential problem. I would like to see the management and the board really address the funding of some other method of controlling the entrance off of 31st on Sandusky.
very good. Very good. Thank you for that suggestion. We will add that to the ideas that we're looking at as we look toward the strategic plan. Thanks for your comment. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Jacob. He's going to talk to us about the vaccine mandate.
Good morning, everybody. My topic's so light. compared to everything else this morning, right? Okay, well, for a couple months now, I've been telling you, hey, it's coming. This is maybe what we think is in here, maybe what we don't. The rules actually dropped last week. So there are two, and I'm sure you're familiar with, the news is covering this quite well. But there's a CMS ruling and an OSHA ruling. The OSHA ruling has been in some district courts put on hold. That's not true for the state of Oklahoma and the district that we're in federally, but a lot of people are kind of watching that and seeing, all right, how quickly is this going to go through the legal process and things. The CMS one, which is federally mandated, has not been put on hold. We do not see it having really any successful challenges to it. So it will roll out pretty quickly. So essentially what both of them say, their goal is to have as many people vaccinated by January 4th. That is the OSHA deadline, and it is a piece of the CMS deadline. The other part to the CMS one is that individuals who are currently unvaccinated need to start the process by December 5th. And that's pretty quick, within a couple of weeks here. So what are we doing? One is we're just, it's very common for the government to put out something and for us to still have loads of questions. And we do have loads of questions, as do almost every single provider in the nation right now. So we are working with some of our legal counsel to help us draft and create policies that we can put in place. We're working on the communication that we need to put out to any of those staff that are currently unvaccinated. One, to educate them on the benefits of it, answer any questions they might have, and essentially get them ready, scheduled for it. The other piece that is not quite as clear are the exemptions. There are two ways to get an exemption. One is medically, the other is for religious belief. The way that it's written, it's still maybe a little vague, and it's more on the provider to create a policy on that and then to offer those exemptions. And so we're trying to work through how we're going to do that. We don't want it to just be a loophole that anybody can get an exemption, but we do want to honor people if they have a true exemption on that. The other piece is for us to understand who is actually going to be under this. Obviously, Trinity Woods is large enough that we would fall under the OSHA ruling, and then anybody that works in the nursing home side of it is under the CMS. I've been talking to other organizations. They're trying to decide, okay, since we accept Medicare and Medicaid inside our nursing home license, does that mean that everybody on campus? And really, it's about a 50-50 shot on the people that I've talked to, whether they say, yeah, we're just going to count everybody in that, and others that say they're not. But we're trying to decide that. And again, that's kind of a piece that we need some legal expertise there. So what I can tell you is that we have another clinic set up for December 2nd. So to be, a little bit under that December 5th deadline. And we will be communicating with all staff on campus. And obviously our vaccination rates on campus will increase come that date. But I'm not sure exactly by how many. And, we still run the risk of losing some good people in that too, that if they just elect not to get vaccinated and go somewhere else, there is that option too. So what questions might you have around the mandate or how it affects Trinity Woods? Yes, Kay.
If the employees want to stay within their job, there's nowhere else for them to go.
Well, that's true maybe for some people. Now, when you look at if I'm a licensed nurse working in our households, it's probably going to be pretty difficult because the CMS ruling covers most medical providers. It doesn't count in your actual doctor's office. And it doesn't count in maybe like assisted living buildings that are standalone, that again have fewer than 100 employees. But if that assisted living is part of a larger group, let's say an ownership group has 4 different assisted living buildings and they all have fewer than 100 people, OSHA says, no, all 4 of those are one entity. And so they fall under that. So it is harder for some of those licensed individuals to go out and find another career right now. But if you work in dining or housekeeping or are a beautician, or I mean, almost any other kind of environmental or operations position here on campus, there definitely are still opportunities out there for people. The other thing about it is if you work for an organization that falls under the OSHA rule, there is a test out option. You can say, I elect not to receive the vaccine, but I will be tested every week.
And is this at their own expense?
The federal
The
mandate
testing?
says yes, but Oklahoma passed a law that says that anybody that is subject to mandatory testing, the employer has to cover that cost. There are grumbles out there. Yes. Okay, the question is, what % of the staff are vaccinated here? So we ran a report last week and we were right under 50%, but we have not been tracking it for employees outside of our licensed areas, because that's what we had to be reporting to the federal government every week. So we are really confident, and we're getting more people that some people were already vaccinated, but they never turned in their cards or gave us that because we didn't need to ask that. And HR, as they've been hiring people in operations, again, that's not something that we need. So that wasn't part of their onboarding process, was to get copies of that. So here in the next 7 to 10 days, that's something that we are really pushing, that we're going to try to gain an actual factual count of where that is. So in our licensed areas, it's a little over 60% right now. And that'll go up a little bit over the next couple of weeks, because we had some people who have finished their vaccinations, but again, they don't count as fully vaccinated for those 2 weeks until after the second dose. Other questions? All right. I thank you guys.
Thank you
Have a
very
great
much,
day.
Jacob. Dennis Graham is going to come with the operations report.
Good morning. Anyone that's been walking around campus the last couple of days can see that we got, as Mr. Ramey reported, we've got a lot of action going on campus with the demolition of the duplex and also 3155 South Sandusky. The 3155 is down and pretty much cleaned up and gone. The duplex is down and about 60% cleaned up when I looked at it earlier this morning. So didn't take them long, and those will be down and out of our way, and we'll have all those big trucks out of the street hopefully by the end of today. So the field on the east sides of the creek, we need it to not rain in order to put down the asphalt, and we're getting close. I talked to Jesse. We hope that it looks like we're going to have a few days of sunshine. So maybe next week we'll be able to get started on that. We're hoping so. Once we get the path in, then everything else will go really quickly. If you notice, there's cones out on 31st Street by where the old construction entrance is, and we have closed that up. All we lack is getting our city approval, which we should get very soon, and putting some dirt and some sod in there in between the street and the sidewalk. So we should have that completed hopefully next week as well. The other challenge, and it's a little bit intrusive and quite noisy and a lot dusty, and that is the leaves. This is one of the strangest leaf years I've seen. I was just noticing yesterday, it's almost Thanksgiving and we still have all the leaves on the trees. That's pretty unusual. So a blessing to us would be that we would get a big wind. They would all come down at once and we could clean them up one time. But anyone in Oklahoma knows that that's not going to happen. So over the next few weeks, we're going to have a lot of leaf crews, a lot of leaf cleanup on campus. So as with every year, it's just something that we have to do and have to get done. And we'll keep up with them absolutely as quick as we can. The guys are doing a pretty good job right now, but they're coming down a little bit at a time. So if we get a major drop, that's when it'll be really dusty and intrusive, but they'll get all that taken care of. The last thing, you notice that the landscape crews have been going around campus. We finally got some inventory in. We were able to start replacing a lot of the dead plants on campus. And one of the things that we're looking at for next year is, and we feel like it's probably would be one of the cost-saving opportunities, and that is instead of changing color twice a year, we're looking at having color in a lot of areas in the summer with perennials, something that will come back year after year after year. We'll only have one cost to plant those. And we won't have to go back twice a year and do some updating on, pulling it. You hear me talk about we're taking the spring color up or the summer color up, we're putting the fall color in and those kind of things. We'll still have some small pockets around campus of those types of bedding plants, but we're looking at changing out a lot of the beds in villas, patio homes, and around some of the buildings from summer color, just annual beds to making those perennial beds. So the investment to do that is about the same as it is to change color one time, and we'll get multiple years use out of those perennials. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. Aside from that, I think we also took the house down right behind the maintenance shop on 31st Place on the west side of the gate over in Dartmoor. So we removed that house. That house was just unrepairable and unusable. So we removed that house, and it was the first one to go. So it's down and out of the way. They'll start filling the hole in and compacting that. And we may use that lot maybe for some maintenance storage. We're looking at turning the fence and moving it. We don't think we'll have a lot of fence expense because we'll be able to reuse what we have. So we're looking at doing that for the maintenance shop to kind of get the dumpsters and those type of things a little further away. So aside from that, I think that's, if anybody has any questions. Yeah, Julia. That's a great question. The question was, what is the projected completion date of the new houses being built? We anticipated to take about 120 days, but we are probably about 2 weeks, depending on how it falls within the holidays, away from getting finalized our permit and plat. There's no problem with it that we know of. So we got the demo permit. Usually when you get that, it's just a formality to get your building permit and your plat. So we should, if you tie all of that together, I'm hoping by May 1st we'll be completely done. Yes. Great question. The question was, where we're tearing down the duplex, are we putting back one house or two houses? And we are putting back two houses. And just FYI, there was a couple of trees over there that had to be removed and were probably going to have to be cut down anyway, no matter what we were doing over there. But there is one massive oak tree over there that the guys came to me and said, that's going to be right in the middle of the driveway of a new house. I said, move the house. We're not cutting down a 100-year-old oak tree. So we're going to save that tree. And we're going to flip the houses over so the driveways are next to each other, just like kind of like they were with the duplex, and it'll look aesthetically pleasing, and we won't have any issues with it. So we are going to save that 60-inch diameter oak tree that's over there. We're not cutting that down. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we checked with the timetable, two things, timetable on the landscaping along Sandusky where we've had construction.
Mhm.
And also road repair like Quebec
Mhm.
down on the south end.
Okay, so the road repair on Quebec should start right after the first of the year. And the landscaping in the fields, it's about a week's project once I get the walking path in. And we are just waiting on the weather to get the walking path in. We're going to try to start that next week. So if everything falls together and we can get the inventory, the plant inventory, we should have all of that cleaned up by the 1st of December on Sandusky. Okay, so we've got somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks to accomplish all of that. But Jesse's working hard to try to. We've got the deal made on the path. We know, we've got the company that's going to do it. We just need a break in the weather. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Kay Owens has a presentation on the Employee Appreciation Fund.
As Steve said, I'm Kay Owens. My husband, Tom, and I have lived here, the first Lakeside house, for 5 years. And I'm a member of the board of directors for Trinity Woods. And as Steve told you, we all have committee assignments. I'm on the development committee, and the development committee raises the funds for the projects done here at Trinity Woods. And an extension of the development committee is the employee appreciation campaign. And Raleigh Rhodes and I started chairing that last year, feeling like it should come from the members, not be done by the leadership. And so in that capacity, I'm here to talk to you today. And wow, what a program to follow. So first of all, I want you to raise your hand and keep them up if you've had a positive experience today with a member of the Trinity Woods employee team. Raise your hand and keep it up. Okay. How many have had a positive experience this week with a Trinity Woods employee? Keep those hands up. How about in the last year? Have you ever said, I'm so glad I live here? Keep them up. Okay, now wave your hands because you've been sitting a long time, get the blood flowing and the endorphins going. So now you can put them down. And, but to see how many people had their hands raised shows you why this campaign is important. Some people think the residents are the lifeblood of this organization. I think it's the employees. And in the last 2 years, we all have to admit, they have gone through a lot. They're still wearing masks. We just got back from a cruise where we had to wear a mask every day and we didn't like it. And so we were glad to come back here, but they're not wearing their mask right now. but they normally are. And so we want to appreciate that. How many of you got your letter in your mailbox on Monday about the Employee Appreciation Campaign? Very good. How many of you have already responded? Very good. I want you to really, if you haven't responded, I want you to really think about it. And people have said, how do I decide what to give? Well, there's various reasons. And I asked some people, and I'm going to keep this short. I'm not going to tell them all. One person said, well, I just give the same thing every year. Another person said, well, my husband and I sit down and we write down what we think we should give, and we look at each other's numbers, and then we come up with a figure. Someone else gave me a formula that was so complicated that I just quit listening. But one person, and this really hit home, said, I wrote down the amount I was going to give, and I looked at it, and I divided it by the number of employees that work at this place, which is 200 plus. And I was embarrassed at how little each employee got from me. So that's something to think about. And I know we've talked about the fee increase, and I hope this will not affect your decision in what you do to help these employees. Our goal is 100% giving. I kind of have a little competition going with Raleigh. He's covering Crestwood. I'm covering what I call the outhouses, or now I'm going to call them the homes in the woods, that to get to 100%. So make us both proud. And it has come up about giving stock or giving your annual return from your IRA to a charity. You can do that, and I have forms here for you to show to your broker that give all the information if you decide to do that. If you do that, if the check goes direct from, say, your IRA account to Trinity Woods, you do not pay income taxes on that money that you get, because it's a donation and you never got it. On stock, a lot of people at the end of the year have capital gains, and they'd like to sell some stock, but they don't want to pay those capital gains. Donate it to Trinity Woods. You've made a donation and you don't have to pay the taxes. And I'd like to ask the members of the committee that are helping, you should be receiving either a visit or a phone call from a neighbor reminding you about the campaign. But with those people helping, please stand up. They're all your neighbors. If they haven't called on you, they will. And I want to thank you people. And I have a lot more things I could say, but I know that time is running out. But I feel, I say this every day, how blessed I feel to live here and be cared for by these wonderful people who, you know, during COVID, this was a tough place to come to work because of all the things that were going on, the possibility of getting COVID. But I'm so glad we live here, and I want us to show these employees our appreciation by helping them have a better Christmas. And I will say that the campaign runs through December the 10th. You can give money all year long. It doesn't apply to the campaign because this is kind of a fun thing. But if you've given money or you need to give it the last of the year, just give a small amount so you can be included in the 100%. Any questions? Yes. Yes.
Us exiles in assisted living, are our helpers part of the employee appreciation because they're not?
The helpers on the committee?
No, the helpers and the
yes,
the servers.
Everyone that works at Trinity Woods, with the exception of the leadership team. We're talking dining services. We're talking nurses. We're talking security. We're talking maintenance. Anybody you come into contact with that works at Trinity Woods gets a check. And the checks will be given out around the 13th of December. And we'll have a little party atmosphere for the people when they come to pick up their checks. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay. I had one member ask me, to whom do I write the check out to? And the other is, to whom do I give it to if I don't want to mail it?
Good question. There is an envelope that is in your folder, in your thing, and it says that, well, you would make it out to Trinity Woods. And you can specify on this envelope, if you want to honor, say, a particular employee, you can put that name down. That employee will get a card that says, May Timmons made a contribution to the Employee Appreciation Fund in your name. They don't know how much. You can do that any time of the year. Say, in honor of someone that does something especially nice for you because we're not allowed to tip, or if a friend here passes away. What a wonderful memorial to give in their honor to the employees. And I'm just looking at this quote from John F. Kennedy. We must find time to stop and thank the people who make a difference in our lives. How true. Oh, and where I'm sure you could put it in any of the mailboxes where you, yeah, the mailboxes where you, some people put in their checks. Crestwood and Holloman have mailboxes. And so just drop them in there. Or you can, I'm sure Jim would, you go by his office, he'll buy you a cup of coffee. Okay. So please, please don't let what's happening around us affect our employees, because they're having to pay up too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
And speaking of Christmas, we are excited to announce that we are bringing back Christmas in the Woods. Whoa. Yay. How many of you all have experienced Christmas at the Manor? Must have. Can anyone guess the last year that we got to host Christmas in the Manor or at the Manor? 2016, because of construction. I was meeting with the Wellness Advisory Committee the other day, and they're like, no, it's only been 2 years. And I'm like, no, the last 2 years are a blur. So it has been since 2016 that we've got to host this event. So we are super excited to bring it back. Ticket sales will start November 22nd, and the tickets will be sold at the Concierge in Crestwood and at the Concierge in Holloman. So more information will be coming out next week on those ticket sales and all of the events and the concerts and all of the stops along the carriageway that we are hosting around campus. And we're so excited to be able to host a lot of our events in the Community Life Center again. And we have a special appearance with Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. So be looking to see who's making their debut as those guests for us. The other thing that we have coming next week is our senior fitness test. Josh is here and he has a sign-up sheet. I think I saw it over here. So if you haven't signed up for the senior fitness test next week, please stop by and see Josh. If you don't, he will be calling you this afternoon to get you to sign up for that event. Our goal is to get 50% participation for everyone living in residential living and in Holloman. We are having it in the CLC and it'll be a fun event. So please see him after this. And then the other thing that Irene wanted me to remind you all about is today at 2:00, we have Greg Frizzell, who is the son of Trinity Woods member Shirley Frizzell, that is going to be speaking on the McGritt versus Oklahoma and its impact on Eastern Oklahoma in that case. So please come to Fleming Center today at 2:00 to enjoy that presentation. All right, Steve, back to you.
Thank you very much. You've been very patient. Thank you. Thank you very much. I do have a few very important community announcements to wrap up our meeting. So these are Trinity Woods team updates. First of all, today is Melanie Fugit's last day. We had a great time at her going away party the other day. We certainly wish you very well and thank you again for everything that you've done to impact our lives. As that chapter closes, a new chapter begins as Carrie Matheson, who has worked closely with Bonnie and I, steps into the role of Director of Member Services. So a familiar face, but moving into the Member Services role. And would you please join me in congratulating Carrie and welcoming her to that new role? As you know, we have been going through the process of reevaluating our marketing efforts. And that process has involved looking at the approach that we take to marketing, and we are working to retool our outreach in terms of marketing. We're going to be taking a new approach to marketing in 2022 that will be more outreach oriented. We will be seeking to engage with prospects in a person-centered way, in a new way. And we're going to change the events that we do for marketing to assist people in the decision-making process as they evaluate the choices that they're contemplating. In connection with that, we've made a decision not to bring in a new director of sales and marketing. Instead, what we are going to do is we are going to incorporate marketing with public relations under the leadership of Bonnie Pollock. Bonnie will have a new title. Her new title is going to be Vice President of Philanthropy and Community Engagement. So marketing and public relations, along with philanthropy, will be her responsibility. And what we're going to do is add a second sales representative to join Nadine in the sales office in Crestwood. And we're recruiting to fill that opening right now. So Bonnie's not here today, but when you see her, please congratulate her on the assumption of these new responsibilities. We don't know anybody who's more enthusiastic about the mission and ministry of Trinity Woods, and we're excited about her assuming that responsibility. She already had responsibility for public relations. She was directly involved in the rollout of the renaming and rebranding. And we think that combining the marketing function with the public relations function will actually be of benefit to us because it will create a consistent brand across the continuum of care that we offer. So independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing will all have the same look in terms of our marketing and sales materials. So that's very exciting. A couple of dates that I want to make sure that you're aware of. First of all, recognizing the impact that the new neighbors to our west will have on the neighborhood that surrounds them. We've reached out to about 50 addresses immediately to our west, and we're inviting the neighborhood to come to the Fleming Center on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock to basically hear the same program that you've heard about welcoming our Afghan neighbors. We've had a very good reception. We're looking forward to informing people about the support that will be provided by the churches, by the English language training that will be offered, and to answer any questions that people have about what our intentions are and about what's happening in that neighborhood. So that'll happen Tuesday night at 6 o'clock in the Fleming Center. If you'd like to drop in, you're welcome to do that. You've basically already heard the presentation if you came. If you didn't come, you're welcome to join us for that. Then on Friday, December 3rd, the training session that I referred to when we had the larger meeting will actually occur in the Fleming Center. Clara White, who has extensive experience in working with Afghans, will come and provide a little bit wider context and explanation about Afghan culture, about the circumstances that the refugees faced, and about efforts that we can engage in that will lend assistance to their transition to United States culture. So December 3rd, 3 to 4 p.m., more information will come out about that, but I wanted you to know that. And then, of course, our Thanksgiving celebration is next Tuesday at 2 p.m. You've been very gracious with your time. I want you to know that if you want a copy of the IRS 990, it's here. If you want a copy of the audited financial statements, they are here. The member survey for strategic planning, copies are available for that. If you don't happen to have a copy of the annual report, if you'd like to know who the board members are, who the officers are, you can grab a copy of the annual report. And as I mentioned, I brought a copy of the board handbook for anybody that's interested. And Kay has forms for how you can find creative ways to give. And she's got those here for your information. Thank you very much. We'll hang out here for a few minutes. If you have personal questions or concerns that you'd like to raise, please feel free to let us know. Grace and peace, everybody. Hope you have a great Friday.